The fluorescent over pump 3 stuttered like a dying heartbeat. Ava Reyes counted 8 crumpled dollars in her fist. Luna's breakfast, her last safety net. When the biker dropped beside his chrome, a mountain of leather and ink clutching his chest. "Don't get involved," the clerk called from the doorway. The smell of gas, the hum of lights. Ava ran anyway. Aspirin, water, $8 gone. She cracked the cap with a thumbnail, slid 2 tablets onto his tongue. "Chew. Stay with me." His pulse trembled under her palm like an engine trying to catch. Then, far off, the sirens began to rise. She hadn't meant to stop at the station. The shortcut through the lot saved 4 minutes of walking. That was all. Her shoes were soaked from a cracked sole. Her feet had been screaming since the diner closed. 11 p.m. Thin wind slicing through her jacket, and now a man was dying at her feet. "Sir, hey, can you hear me?" No response. His breath came in tiny hiccups, then none at all. She fumbled for her phone. 1 bar, 10%. Dialed 911. Dropped. The screen blinked. Call failed. "Please don't do this to me," she whispered, more prayer than order. She sprinted toward the store. "Call an ambulance right now. He's dying out there." The clerk, mid-30s, tattoo of dice on his neck, rolled his eyes, but picked up the landline. "Crazy night," he muttered. Ava didn't wait. She scanned the shelves, grabbed the cheapest bottle of water and the aspirin. Her hands shook so hard, she nearly dropped both at the counter. "How much?" "$6.50. She peeled off the 8 ones, the last thin breath of her wallet, and left the change. Back outside. The biker's skin was the color of wet cement. His vest read Iron Serifs MC, patches stitched like medals. She knelt, uncapped the bottle, pressed 2 tablets to his lips. "Come on, chew." He obeyed in a slow grind of teeth. The sound was small but alive. "Help's coming," she said. She didn't know if it was true. A pair of headlights sliced through the lot. A motorcycle shrieked in and killed its engine beside them. A younger man, mid-30s, long braid, eyes sharp, leapt off. "Bear," he shouted. He dropped to his knees opposite her. "You helped him. He needed help," she said simply. The newcomer blinked, stunned. "Most people cross the street when they see us." Sirens wailed closer now, red and blue reflections skating over gas pumps. 2 paramedics spilled out. "Efficient. All motion." "What do we have?" one asked. "Possible heart attack," Ava said. 2 aspirin. 3 minutes ago. "Smart move." The medic clipped on a pulse oximeter. "Ma'am, you might have saved him." They lifted the giant onto a stretcher. As they rolled him toward the ambulance, he reached out, fingers closing weakly on her wrist. His eyes were barely open. "What's your name?" "Ava Reyes." "Ava." He swallowed air. "Tell them Bear sent you." She blinked. "What?" But the doors slammed, cutting him off. The younger biker wiped a hand across his face. "You have no idea who he is, do you?" She shook her head. He reached into his vest, pulled out a white card embossed with a crown and wings, only a phone number beneath. "My name's Jax Rivera. Bear's going to want to thank you. Call that number tomorrow." Ava stared at the card. The paper felt heavier than it should. I didn't do it for thanks." "I know." Jax studied her, as if memorizing her face. "That's exactly why he'll care." He swung onto his bike, engine flaring like thunder. "You're a good person, Ava Reyes. Don't let anyone tell you different." Then he was gone, tail lights swallowed by the dark. The lot went silent, except for the buzzing lamps. The clerk leaned in the doorway, smoke curling from his cigarette. "Told you they're trouble," he said. "You'll regret it." Ava said nothing. Her hands still smelled of gasoline and aspirin dust. She picked up the change she'd left on the counter, $1.50 in coins, and started the 2-mile walk home. The streets were empty. Neon from a pawn shop blinked CASH, one letter short. She walked fast, eyes up, body trembling with leftover adrenaline. The whole scene kept looping. His gray face, the trembling grip. Tell them Bear sent you. Was that a name? A warning? By the time she reached her building, the adrenaline had drained into cold exhaustion. The hallway light was out again. Third floor smelled of boiled onions and cheap bleach. Inside, Luna was asleep on the couch beside Mrs. Lane, the neighbor who watched her when Ava worked late. The TV hissed static. Ava touched Mrs. Lane's shoulder. "I'm home." "Thank you." The older woman blinked awake, grabbed her purse. She was an angel tonight. When the door shut, Ava lifted Luna, careful not to wake her, and carried her to the small bedroom. The child stirred, murmured, "Mommy, shh, go back to sleep. Baby, I love you. I love you too." She tucked the blanket tight, brushed a curl off her forehead. For a long moment she just watched her breathing, steady and clean. Then Ava went to the kitchen table and laid out her night's math. The gas station receipt, the $1.50 change, a half-empty notebook. The first page read, "Gratitude list. 3 lines per day. Her grandmother's rule, find the light, even when it flickers." She uncapped her pen. "Luna is safe. I helped someone tonight. Tomorrow is a new day." She closed the notebook, set it beside the card with the crown and wing. The logo caught the dull light like metal. Maybe she'd throw it away tomorrow. Or maybe she'd call. She hadn't decided. She leaned back, staring at the ceiling, water stains shaped like a map she couldn't name. Her hands still trembled. Through the thin wall she could hear a neighbor's baby crying, the rhythmic whoosh of an old radiator, the distant rumble of a motorcycle somewhere far down the highway. She thought of the way the biker's pulse had felt under her hand, a small, stubborn rhythm refusing to stop. It matched the sound now, faint but steady. Across town, in a sterile hospital room, Mason Bear Harlow lay awake under a fog of morphine. Jack stood at the foot of the bed, helmet under his arm. "You almost died, brother." "Almost," Bear rasped. "That woman." She didn't flinch. "She used her last $8. From what I saw," Bear smiled, "tired and genuine. $8 to save my life." He stared at the ceiling tiles. "Gather everyone tomorrow. All of them." "Sure. What do I tell them?" "Tell them we found her, back in her apartment." Ava clicked off the lamp. The room plunged into the kind of dark that makes you hear your own heartbeat. She lay still, wide-eyed, until exhaustion finally pulled her under. Somewhere outside, an engine started, revved once, then quieted, a sound she'd come to recognize, not as threat, but as promise, and though she didn't know it yet, that sound was the first tremor of a wave about to break her life wide open. The alarm split the dark at 5 a.m. Sharp. Ava slapped it quiet and lay still for a heartbeat, staring at the cracked ceiling where the leak stain had dried into the shape of a bird. For a second she almost believed it was flying. Then Luna coughed from the next room, soft, raspy. The sound pushed her up. The air was cold enough to see her breath. The space heater had died sometime in the night. She padded barefoot across the warped floor, opened the cabinet, and found what she already knew: half a banana, 5 saltine crackers, and an unopened bottle of tap water she'd refilled yesterday. Breakfast of champions. She sliced the banana, arranging the halves on 2 plates, like it might trick Luna into thinking it was enough. When the child patted in, rubbing her eyes, Ava smiled as if nothing inside her ached. "Morning, Bug." "Morning, Mommy. Banana boats today. You're the captain." Luna giggled and climbed onto the wobbly chair. Ava sat opposite her with empty hands, pretending to sip water as she watched her daughter eat. Outside, Buses groaned awake, brakes squealing in the gray dawn. Somewhere, a dog barked at nothing. She forced a smile until Luna looked away, then let it fade. $8 gone. But the man had lived. She could still feel the echo of his hand clutching hers. A knock came, 3 hard raps. Ava frowned. Link. 15 a.m. Nobody knocked this early unless it was bad news. She opened the door to find Mrs. Johnson, the neighbor from across the hall. 60-ish, robe tied tight, face carved with judgment lines. "See, baby," she said, voice low but sharp. "We need to talk. It's Ava. I know what it is. You helped one of them biker devils last night, didn't you?" Ava blinked. "How did you?" "Honey, word travels faster than rent notices. You were at that gas station, weren't you? One of them Iron Seraph's boys near dead." Ava felt her pulse quicken. He was having a heart attack. "I couldn't just—" Mrs. Johnson cut her off with a raised hand. "Child, those men run guns, drugs, God knows what. You got a little girl. You think they'll thank you? They'll bring trouble straight to your door." "He was dying," Ava said quietly. Mrs. Johnson's mouth tightened. "You too kind for your own good. And in this world, kindness'll eat you alive." The door across the hall opened a crack. A neighbor peeked. "Listening." Mrs. Johnson lowered her voice. "You remember what happened to my brother? Tried to stop a fight at that bar on 8th. Got shot in the parking lot. Wrong place. Wrong people. Don't let that be you." Ava nodded stiffly. "I appreciate your concern." Mrs. Johnson sighed. "Just be careful. You can't save everyone." She shuffled back down the hall in slippers that whispered, "Told you so." Ava closed the door and leaned against it. Her hands shook. She stared at the lock as though it could keep judgment out. Luna's voice floated from the kitchen. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "Nothing." "Baby, finish your breakfast." "Nothing." Always nothing. At the laundromat, the hum of dryers filled the silence like white noise. Ava folded shirts until her fingers went numb. Each cycle of the machines marked another hour closer to rent day. She had 3 days, $127 short, and a landlord who already called twice last week. Linda, the older co-worker with bright red hair and smoker's laugh, slid into the seat beside her during break. "You look like you wrestled a tumble dryer." "Honey, just tired." "You were on the late shift again." Ava hesitated, then exhaled. "I helped someone last night. A biker had a heart attack outside the gas station. I used my last $8 for aspirin and water." Linda's eyes widened. "You helped a seraph. Lord, girl, they scare half this town. He was dying." Linda: "Yeah. And now every member of that club knows your face. You ever seen one of their funerals? They roll 100 deep. Whole city stop." Ava's voice stayed even. "He lived. That's not the point." Linda sighed. Softer now. "I admire you. Sweet thing. But you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to keep something for yourself. And that little girl." Ava managed a faint smile. "If I'd walked away, I'd be someone else. I couldn't live with that." Linda looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "That's why I like you. You still got a conscience. Just don't let it bankrupt you." The afternoon dragged. She folded denim until her wrists ached, stared at the clock until the second hand seemed cruel. The gas station scene replayed in her mind like a looped security tape. The lights, the sound, the feel of his pulse faltering. "Tell them Bear sent you." During her break, she fished the white card from her pocket. The Crown and Wings logo gleamed faintly under fluorescent light. A number beneath it. Nothing else. She typed a message before courage could fail her. "Hi, this is Ava Reyes. Jax gave me this number last night." Her thumb hovered. Then she hit send. 5 seconds later, The phone buzzed. Unknown number. She froze. The ringtone seemed too loud for the tiny back room. She let it ring out. A minute later, voicemail pinged. Ava, it's Jax. Bear wants to meet you. Today, 3 p.m. Murphy's Diner on 5th. It's important. Please. The message ended with the low rumble of engines in the background. Ava replayed it twice. Linda peeked through the doorway. You okay? They want to meet me. The biker, his friend, at Murphy's. Linda whistled. If you go, call me first, or text me when you're back. Seriously, Ava nodded. What's the worst that could happen? Free coffee if you're lucky. Headlines if you're not. By 2:45 p.m. Ava stood at the bus stop, clutching her purse like armor. Her reflection in the glass looked older. The dark circles deeper. She almost didn't get on. But something inside, maybe curiosity, maybe the need to prove that kindness hadn't been a mistake, made her climb aboard. The bus hissed down 5th Street, past auto shops and pawn windows cluttered with second-hand guitars. Then she saw them. Motorcycles. Dozens. Chrome catching sunlight like a field of mirrors. They lined the curb outside Murphy's Diner, every one identical black and polished steel. Ava's breath hitched. The driver said, "This, your stop." "Ma'am." She almost said no. Then, yeah, outside. The air smelled of oil and fried onions. Men in leather vests stood shoulder to shoulder. Women too. Tattoos climbed necks. Knuckles. Forearms. None spoke. As she approached, each one nodded once. Silent acknowledgement. She passed through them like a ghost, through a corridor of giants. Inside, the diner had gone dead quiet. Every booth, every stool, occupied by members of the club. All heads turned toward her. Ava froze in the doorway. Then Jax appeared from the back, smile genuine but nervous. "Ava, thanks for coming." She followed him through the room. As she passed, the bikers stood up one by one until the sound of chairs scraping tile echoed like thunder. A ritual. Respect. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Jax stopped at a corner booth. There sat Bear, alive. He looked smaller without the vest. Oxygen tubing looped discreetly under his nose. But his eyes, gray and fierce, were the same ones she'd seen flicker open on the pavement. "Ava Reyes," he said, voice, gravel, and gratitude. "Please, sit." She slid into the booth, palms sweating against the vinyl seat. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Alive, thanks to you." Doctor said 2 more minutes. I'd have been a corpse. "You carry medical training?" "No. Just panic and Google knowledge." Bear chuckled, then coughed. "Sometimes that's enough." Jax brought coffee. Ava's hand shook when she lifted the cup. Bear noticed. "I know you used your last money on me," he said quietly. "You didn't take Jax's offer either. It wasn't about money. I figured." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a worn photograph. Edges curled. A younger Bear with a woman and a bright-eyed girl about 7. "This is Lily, my daughter. She's beautiful." Ava murmured. "She was. Leukemia took her when she was 7. I was 2 paychecks too late. Promised her I'd never ignore kindness again. So I built Lily's legacy. We help families drowning like I was. Veterans. Single moms. Kids with medical bills." Ava blinked. "That's your foundation." "Yeah, we ride to raise money, deliver food, pay rent, buy meds." The cuts, he gestured at the vests, "they scare people, but they open doors too. People notice 100 bikes rolling up." He leaned forward. "Tomorrow, something's gonna happen. Don't be scared. Just trust me." "What do you mean?" He smiled, tired but sure. "You'll see." He stood slowly, wincing, dropped a few bills on the table. "For your bus fare home." "I can't. You already paid your part." Then he was gone. Jax following. The other bikers remained standing until she exited. Outside, sunlight burned sharp. Ava's hands shook as she held the door open, watching them mount their bikes, engines rumbling in a synchronized growl. The sound rolled down Fifth Street like thunder leaving town. Back home, word had already outrun her. On her block, curtains fluttered, voices whispered. Mrs. Johnson stood on her porch with Mr. Rodriguez from next door. I told her no good would come of it, Johnson hissed. Now she's meeting them. Rodriguez frowned. You sure they were iron seraphs? Saw it myself. Their colors. Our kids live here. Ava quickened her pace. The murmurs followed like shadows. By nightfall, paranoia had settled over the neighborhood. Doors bolted. Lights off early. Someone even called the precinct to report suspicious biker activity. Ava lay awake, listening to Luna's breathing in the next room, and wondered if kindness really had a price tag she couldn't afford. At dawn, thunder again, but not from the sky. Engines. The apartment rattled. Ava ran to the window. The street below shimmered with chrome. Hundreds of bikes, lined in formation, engines idling like a single heartbeat. Oh my God, she whispered. Luna appeared beside her, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Mommy, why are there so many motorcycles? Ava didn't answer. Outside, neighbors spilled onto porches. Fatsispale, Mrs. Johnson already had her phone to her ear. Yes. Operator. There's a gang outside our building. Hundreds of them. Yes. I said gang. Ava threw on jeans, grabbed Luna's hand, and stepped outside before fear could trap her. The sight hit her like sunlight. The bikers had parked in perfect order. At the front stood Bear, vest on, pale but smiling. Jax beside him holding a microphone connected to a portable speaker. Cole lifted his hands for silence. Engines cut off one by one until the street was eerily still. Bear's voice carried, low but steady. Folks, we're not here to cause trouble. We're here to repay a debt. Neighbors murmured. Rodriguez shouted, What kind of debt? The kind written in kindness. Bear said, 2 nights ago, one of your own saved my life with her last $8. She didn't see a biker. She saw a man dying. Today, we see her. Behind him, a truck trailer eased forward. Its sides read, Lily's Legacy. Hope delivered. Volunteers, men and women in the same crown and wings insignia, opened the doors and began unloading boxes. Bear turned to Ava. You gave me a second chance. Let me give you one. He handed her an envelope. She opened it. A check for $25. Ling ling ling. And a printed letter. Offer of employment. Community Outreach Coordinator. Lily's Legacy Foundation. Salary $52. 000 year plus full benefits. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Johnson lowered her phone. Lord have mercy. Ava couldn't speak. Tears blurred the ink. Luna hugged her leg, frightened by the attention. Bear continued, voice rough. This street judged me by my jacket. She didn't. That's the world I'm trying to build, where people see people, not patches. Slowly, neighbors stepped forward. Rodriguez first. You helped my cousin in Detroit, Miguel. PTSD vet. Lily's Legacy paid for his therapy. A woman added, You saved my mother's house last year. Another, You paid for my son's surgery. Fear melted into shame. Then awe. Mrs. Johnson wiped her eye. Baby, we were wrong about you. About them. Ava finally found her voice, trembling. I just did what anyone should. Bear smiled. That's the point. Most don't. He handed her a set of car keys. We bought your car from impound. It's fixed. Consider it your company vehicle. Luna squealed. We have a car again. The crowd erupted in cheers and the sudden roar of engines, not as threat but celebration. Ava covered her face with both hands. and sobbed the kind of cry that rinses years of fear away. By noon, the bikers were unloading furniture into her apartment. The same people who terrified the block an hour ago now helped carry couches, groceries, and toys. Rodriguez hammered a bed frame together. Mrs. Johnson arranged dishes in the new cupboards. Luna danced between them, clutching a bright pink helmet one biker had given her. Bear sat on the new sofa, beckoning Ava to join him. "I want you to help us reach more families," he said. "You know what struggle feels like? That's why you'll be good at this." Ava nodded, tears still drying on her cheeks. "I won't let you down. You already didn't." He slid a folder across the table. Blueprints for a community center. At the top, the Reyes house. Ava's hand flew to her mouth. "You can't." "I can," Bear said, "and I am. This neighborhood deserves a place that builds hope instead of walls." Outside, engines revved once more, a rolling thunder of joy. For the first time in years, Ava let herself believe tomorrow might not just be survivable. It might actually be good. Morning light poured through the blinds in sharp bars, slicing across new furniture that still smelled of varnish. Ava Reyes stood barefoot in the kitchen, stunned that every drawer had silverware, every shelf full of food. It felt unreal, too clean, too good. She touched the countertop just to be sure it was solid. Luna sat at the table, swinging her legs, eating cereal from a real bowl. "Mommy," she said through a mouthful of milk, "is it always gonna be like this?" Ava smiled, brushing crumbs from the table. "I hope so, baby," but she didn't believe it yet. Not completely. The knock came at 9. Two uniformed code inspectors stood at the door, one tall and blank-faced, the other younger, nervous. Behind them loomed Mr. Bratt, the landlord, cheap cologne fighting the smell of smoke. "Morning, Ms. Reyes," he said, pretending civility. "We've had reports of disturbances. Noise. Unauthorized construction." Ava blinked. "What construction?" Pratt gestured toward the street, where the Iron Seraph still milled around the trailer, unloading the last boxes of supplies. "That circus out there, zoning says it's a violation. They're helping fix my apartment. They replaced furniture that was falling apart. Without landlord approval." Pratt interrupted. "This is private property. You don't get to invite a gang to remodel your unit." Ava's pulse climbed. "They're a non-profit. They're building a community center." The inspector scribbled notes. "You'll need a permit if this involves structural modification." "There isn't structural modification," Ava said. "They're just delivering things." Pratt smiled thinly. "I'll let housing court decide that." He turned, coat flaring like a threat, and stalked off down the stairs. Ava stood frozen in the doorway, Luna peeking from behind her leg. The inspectors murmured something about paperwork and left too. By the time she closed the door, her hands were trembling again. At noon, Jax Rivera called. "You good?" he asked. "Define good." "My landlord just threatened to evict me." Pause. Then, "We'll handle it. Don't talk to him again. You've got representation now." "I don't need." "You do," Jax said, tones soft but firm. "Bear's sending our counsel. You're part of Lily's legacy now. We look out for our people." Ava exhaled. "That's the part that scares me." Jax laughed quietly. "Welcome to family." That afternoon, she met Bear in the small office. The foundation had rented downtown a converted auto garage with the Crown and Wings logo painted above the door. The air smelled like coffee and sawdust. He sat behind a desk, cluttered with blueprints and permit forms. "Sorry about the landlord," he said. "He's bluffing. Zoning's clean. I don't like being the reason my neighbors are nervous. They'll come around." Fears loud at first. He pushed a folder toward her. "Your first caseload. 5 families. Review their applications. Verify details. Report back." We'll approve aid where it fits. Ava opened the folder. Single mother, 2 kids, utility shutoff. Veteran eviction notice. Elderly couple medication lapse. She recognized all of them. They lived within 3 blocks. You know them, Bear said. That's why you'll do this better than any of us. You see them as people, not numbers. Ava ran her finger down the page until it landed on one name. Ruth Patterson, age 81. She remembered the frail woman who'd smiled at Luna from her porch every morning. I want to start with her, Ava said. Bear nodded. Take Jax with you. Paper over heat. Remember. What does that mean? He smiled. It means we solve problems with documents before fists. They found Mrs. Patterson on her porch, wearing a faded floral dress and an oxygen tube taped to her cheek. I can't believe you remembered me, she said. When Ava explained who she was, I see you every morning. Ava replied, we're here because you shouldn't have to choose between medicine and groceries. Jax took photos of empty pill bottles, logged receipts. Ava filled out the forms by hand. When Mrs. Patterson started crying, Ava squeezed her hand. By tomorrow, she said, you'll have a 3-month supply. No cost. The old woman's eyes glistened. You don't know what this means. Ava did. She'd lived it. Word spread faster than the bikes could idle. By sunset, half the block knew Ava was working for Lily's legacy. Kids followed her when she walked to the bodega. Parents whispered blessing, but not everyone smiled. 2 days later, a black SUV idled across from the center, the driver clean suit. City plate sat, watching as volunteers hauled drywall into the empty lot. Ava noticed him, but said nothing until he stepped out. Ms. Reyes, he called. His badge flashed gold. City Housing Authority. Yeah, he handed her a letter. Notice of investigation. Alleged improper use of charitable funds. Ava stared. This is a mistake. Maybe, he said. But someone filed a complaint, claims Lily's legacy is laundering money through your account. My what? The man shrugged. We audit all leads. Standard procedure. He left before she could ask more. Ava tore the envelope open. Inside, anonymously typed paragraphs alleging she'd accepted cash compensation from a motorcycle club. Her stomach dropped. She called Bear. Someone's accusing me of fraud. Yeah, he said quietly. Pratt. He's pissed we bought your car back from impound. He's telling the city you're on payroll for a gang. I could lose everything. Not if we get ahead of it. Paper over heat. Remember, we'll show them receipts, bank logs, everything clean. But that night, Ava couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the word fraud burning across her eyelids. Morning brought the first camera, a news van parked across the street, a reporter rehearsing into her mic. Single mother turned biker charity employee under investigation. Ava closed the blind, heart hammering. Luna sat on the couch, drawing with crayons. Mommy, why's that lady filming our house? She's just confused. Baby. Her phone vibrated non-stop texts from coworkers, distant friends, even Linda. You okay? They're talking about you on Channel 6. Ava turned off the phone. When Bear and Jax arrived, she was sitting on the kitchen floor, holding the gratitude notebook open to a blank page. We'll fix this, Bear said. We've dealt with worse. How? By being boring, Jax said. Paper trails, not tempers. We file the disclosures, publish the receipts. Let the truth crawl out slow. Bear nodded. If we blow up, they win. You stay calm. Keep working your cases. Let us take the fire. Ava swallowed hard. People already think I did it. Then prove them wrong by doing the work anyway. The next week was hell. Every morning she walked past cameras to get to the center. Inside, she buried herself in applications, answering calls, distributing supplies. But at night, she scrolled through comment sections, She shouldn't read. She's in bed with criminals. Good PR stunt. Single mom fronting a laundering scheme, another fake charity watch. It'll collapse in 6 months. Her chest tightened until she could hardly breathe. One evening, she found a note slid under her door. We don't need gang money in our neighborhood. No signature. Just block letters cut from magazines. She folded it neatly, set it beside her gratitude notebook, and wrote anyway. Luna laughed today. Mrs. Patterson got her medicine. I'm still standing. 2 weeks later, the hearing. City Hall smelled of dust and politics. Ava sat at a table under fluorescent glare, beside a pro bono lawyer from the foundation. Pratt sat opposite, smug in a suit that didn't quite fit, flanked by the same inspector from before. The chairwoman adjusted her glasses. Mr. Pratt, you filed the complaint. Yes, ma'am. I have reason to believe Ms. Reyes is collaborating with a known motorcycle gang to funnel money through residential accounts. The lawyer slid a folder forward. Your Honor, here are financial statements verifying every transaction, notarized by the Foundation's accountant. Ms. Reyes has received only salary payments fully reported, no cash transfers. The chairwoman flipped through the pages. All legitimate, she murmured. Pratt leaned forward. You don't understand. These people. The younger inspector cut him off. Sir, we verified the permits. The construction is legal. Pratt's face reddened. They're criminals. Enough. The chairwoman said, your accusations are baseless. Case dismissed. Gavel. Echo. Done. Outside, flashbulbs exploded. Reporters shouted questions. Ava shielded her eyes. Heart pounding. Bear appeared beside her, towering. Calm. Paper overheat. He said, told you. She laughed short, shaky, but it was laughter. Come on, he said. Press wants a quote. Give them one worth hearing. She faced the microphones. I'm not here to defend a rumor, she said. I'm here to keep doing the work. Kindness isn't a crime. The line hit the evening news within the hour. Kindness isn't a crime, trended by morning. Days later, the city rescinded all investigations. Donations to Lily's legacy tripled, but Ava stayed wary. She'd seen how fast public love turned into fire. One evening, as the last light slipped through the center's windows, Jax handed her a folder. What's this? Next phase. Expansion proposals. Bear wants you to lead. Ava opened it. Architectural sketches. Outreach budgets. New sites. I don't know if I'm ready. You're already doing it, Jack said. Outside. Engines rumbled Keter now, almost gentle. Ava looked through the glass at the community she once feared would collapse around her. Neighbors talked. Kids played near the trailer. Mrs. Johnson handed out lemonade to bikers who used to terrify her. The air smelled like cut wood in summer. Luna ran up the walkway, clutching her drawing, a motorcycle with wings and a stick figure family underneath. She held it up. Look, Mommy, it's us. Ava smiled, eyes stinging. Yeah, baby, that's us. Later, when the lights dimmed and volunteers drifted home, she stood alone in the main hall, gazing at the blueprint pinned to the wall. The Reyes House future site of the community center, foundation stone, already poured. She thought of the gas station's flickering light, of the 8 crumpled dollars, of the heartbeat that wouldn't quit. Kindness costs, she knew now, but sometimes the price is the proof you're still alive. The first hammer blow landed before dawn. Metal on concrete, echoing through the half-built skeleton of the Reyes house. Sparks sprayed across the worksite like orange snow, lighting Ava's face in short, violent bursts. She stood near the fence line with her clipboard, breath steaming in the cool air, watching volunteers secure the steel frame that would become the community kitchen. Behind her, the neighborhood stirred awake kids heading to school, old men sweeping porches, someone frying bacon in an upstairs apartment. For once, everything felt steady, the noise of progress. Then the sirens started. Two black and whites pulled up fast, lights painting the metal beams in red and blue. Construction stopped. The volunteers froze mid-swing. Ava's chest tightened. Not again. Three uniformed officers stepped out, led by a square-jawed sergeant who looked more like a billboard than a person. His nameplate read Skeeta. Keen. Who's in charge here? He barked. Ava stepped forward. I am. You have permits for this. Yes. Posted right there. She pointed to the laminated sheet taped beside the entry. Keena didn't even glance. We got a noise complaint. Also, reports of gang activity tied to this address. Murmurs rippled through the volunteers. A few bikers straightened, defensive. Ava raised a hand. This is Lily's legacy, a registered nonprofit. These men are volunteers, not gang members. Keen smiled without humor. Funny, those vests say Iron Seraphs. They're part of our foundation. Ava said, We've cleared everything with the city. Keen took a slow step closer, boots crunching on gravel. Maybe, but someone upstairs wants to make sure you're not hiding anything under all this charity shine. He gestured to his officers. Check the site. Ava's stomach dropped. You can't just... He cut her off. Ma'am, you can either cooperate or obstruct. Which one's it gonna be? Jax moved beside her. Calm, but solid. We got nothing to hide, he said. Keen's gaze flicked to Jax's tattoos. Sure you don't. The officers fanned out. One pried open a supply crate. Another snapped photos of the bikes parked along the curb. Ava kept her voice level. Sergeant, if you need documents, I can get you copies right now. But please don't treat our volunteers like criminals. Keena smirked. Lady, I don't treat anyone like anything. I just follow leads. 30 minutes later, the officers left without comment. But they'd opened enough boxes, taken enough pictures to leave a shadow behind. When they were gone, Bear appeared from the trailer office. His face was calm, but his fists were tight. They'll be back, he said. Why? Ava asked. Because somebody keeps feeding them lies. Pratt. Maybe. Or someone bigger. You start helping poor folks. You cut into somebody's profit margin. Ava rubbed her temples. I'm tired of fighting ghosts. Bear's gaze softened. You're not fighting ghosts, you're fighting habits. People been told too long that anything loud or leather means trouble. We just have to outlast the story. She wanted to believe him. By afternoon, the police visit was already online. A shaky cell phone video showed flashing lights and officers searching crates. The caption read, Raid at Lily's legacy builds site charity or cover-up. Within hours, local news picked it up. Comment threads filled with conspiracy theories. At the center, Ava's inbox exploded, half donations, half death threats. Jax shut her laptop. Stop reading that crap. I can't not look. Yes, you can. Focus on what's real. He slid a folder toward her. These are tomorrow's outreach visits. Ruth Patterson's follow-up, a veteran named Marcus, and a food bank delivery. That's your world, not the noise. Ava exhaled. What if the noise gets louder? Then we drown it with work. Marcus lived in a rusted trailer at the edge of the industrial park. A man built like a linebacker, but hollowed by fatigue. He greeted them warily, eyes flicking to the Lily's legacy patch on Jax's vest. You with the bikers, Ava smiled gently. With the people who paid for your therapy vouchers? Yes. He hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. Inside smelled of oil and loneliness. A folded flag sat on the shelf beside a photo of a little boy. I was in Fallujah, Marcus said. Got back. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't work. VA put me on hold for months. Then you guys showed up, paid for my meds. No strings. No strings, Ava said. He studied hair. Why'd you help me? Because someone helped me when I didn't deserve it either. For a long time, Marcus said nothing. Then he reached into a drawer and handed her an envelope. 50 crumpled dollars. Take it, he said. For the next one who needs it? Ava tried to protest, but he pressed the envelope into her hand. I need to believe it still goes both ways. When she left, her throat ached too much to speak. Back at the site, the framework for the Reyes house rose like a promise. Kids watched from the sidewalk as volunteers hammered and welded. For the first time in weeks, Ava felt the flicker of hope returning. Then she saw the flyer taped to the fence in bold letters. Stop the fake charity. Lily's legacy equals gang laundering front. City Council hearing Friday. Jax tore it down, jaw tight. They're escalating. Who's they? Ava demanded. He didn't answer. But that night, when she left the center, she noticed a black sedan idling again down the street. Same model, same plates. Watching. Friday came fast. The hearing chamber buzzed with reporters. Councilman Derek Vance sat at the dais. Perfect hair, perfect suit, smile like a blade. He'd built his career on neighborhood integrity, which meant anything that made him look virtuous on TV. Bear leaned toward Ava before it started. That man wants your head. I thought he wanted truth. Bear chuckled softly. Truth's just another word for airtime. Vance rapped his gavel. Cameras clicked. Ms. Reyes, thank you for appearing. Let's be efficient. Several residents have raised concerns about your foundation's partnership with an organization previously associated with criminal activity. Care to explain? Ava kept her voice calm. Lily's Legacy is a non-profit. We partner with the Iron Seraphs because they're our volunteers, not criminals. Every cent we spend is documented. Documented, Vance said, mock pleasant. Yet your landlord reports extensive, unpermitted construction. Police have received repeated calls about intimidation. Ava met his gaze. Every inspection has cleared us. I have copies of all permits right here. She held up a binder. If you'd read your own staff reports, you'd know that. Murmurs rippled through the room. Vance's smile thinned. Watch your tone. Ms. Reyes. Bear's hand settled gently on her arm. A silent breathe. Ava took a breath. Councilman, with respect. My tone isn't the problem. The problem is that people see patches and assume guilt. Vance tapped his pen, eyes narrowing. Or maybe they see an opportunity. A single mother suddenly in charge of hundreds of thousands in donations. Convenient, isn't it? That landed like a slap. Cameras flashed. Before Ava could speak, Bear stood. You want to question someone? Question me. She saved my life. That's why she runs the foundation. Because she understands value the rest of us forgot. Vance's lips twitched. Is that a threat? Mr. Harlow. Bear's voice stayed level. No, that's gratitude. The room fell silent. Afterward, the council voted to table the investigation. Temporary victory. But Ava saw it, the calculation in Vance's eyes. He wasn't done. That night, someone threw a rock through the center's window. It shattered the display case, holding Luna's drawing the motorcycle with wings, their family. Glass scattered across the floor like ice. Ava stood staring at it for a long time. Chest tight, Jax arrived minutes later. You okay? She nodded. Though her eyes burned, they broke her picture. He crouched, picking up the biggest shard. Then we frame a new one. But when he looked up, his expression had changed. You smell that? Smoke. They raced to the back. Flames licked the edge of the supply shed. Someone had poured accelerant through the vent. Jax grabbed an extinguisher, smothered the fire before it spread. But the message was clear. The next morning, A single word was spray-painted on the wall in black letters: leave. Bear called an emergency meeting. The volunteers packed the small office, faces tense. "This ends now," one of the bikers said. "We hit back." "No," Bear said sharply. "We don't give them what they expect. They're threatening a woman and a kid." "I know." Bear's voice softened. "But if we fight with fists, they'll paint us as monsters. We fight with cameras, with paperwork, with community." Ava stepped forward. "Then let's use both. Quiet and loud. We'll fix the wall and hold an open block party tomorrow. Feed everyone. Show them what we really are. Let the whole neighborhood see." Bear smiled. "That's the spirit. Paper over heat, but add music." The next day, the street came alive. Barbecue smoke, kids' laughter, live blues from an old amp someone found in the garage. Neighbors who'd once hidden behind curtains now danced beside bikers in matching vests. Mrs. Johnson ran the dessert table, handing out peach cobbler like communion. Reporters came, expecting scandal, and found joy instead. When Ava stepped to the microphone, her voice carried over the hum of engines and conversation. "6 months ago, I had $8 left to my name. Today, I have something better: neighbors who show up. This center isn't built by bikers or politicians. It's built by people who refuse to walk away." Applause rose, genuine and rough. Bear leaned against his bike, pride softening the lines on his face. Yak stood beside him, watching the crowd. "Think they're starting to get it?" Bear nodded. Slowly. "You can't burn what's already lit with hope." As night fell, Ava sat on the curb with Luna asleep in her lap. The mural they'd painted that afternoon dried under the streetlight. A pair of wings spread wide over the words, "We stay." For the first time since that night at the gas station, she felt peace, fragile, precious, real. Across the street, the black sedan idled once more. The driver lit a cigarette, phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah," he said into the receiver. "They're still building." "No, she won't quit." A pause. "Then we'll make her." The taillights flared, red on glass, and disappeared into the dark. Rain came down like static, thin, relentless, washing the color out of the street. Inside the community center, the power flickered once, twice, and steadied. Avaria sat behind her desk, reviewing a new batch of grant forms, while the sound of hammering echoed from the next room. The walls still smelled faintly of smoke from the arson attempt 2 weeks earlier, cleaned but not forgotten. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Reyes." The voice was male, polished. "Oficial. This is Detective Collins. Organized Crime Division. We'd like to ask a few questions about your relationship with the Iron Seraphs." Ava's throat tightened. "I've already answered to City Hall." "Detective, everything's public record. This isn't about your finances," he said. "It's about theirs. There's chatter about a shipment contraband moving through a warehouse owned by a Seraph affiliate. You're listed on the lease as secondary contact." "What? That can't be right." "Then you'll want to clear it up. We can meet downtown, or I can bring a warrant." The line went dead. Ava sat frozen, the word warrant ringing like a siren in her skull. By noon, the rain had stopped, but the unease hadn't. Jax arrived first, water dripping from his jacket. When she told him, his expression hardened. "Someone's setting you up," he said. "Who?" "Could be Pratt again. Could be Councilman Vance, or someone inside the club feeding them garbage." "You think there's a leak?" He looked away. "There's always a leak." Ava rubbed her temples. "They said I'm on a warehouse lease. That's the old Camden property. We donated it to Lily's legacy months ago. We've been storing food there. So how does it tie to contraband?" "By whoever planted it," he said quietly. That night, she and Jax drove to the Camden warehouse. The neighborhood smelled of salt and rust. the docks lined with shipping containers and broken glass. The building stood dark except for one light burning in the office window. Jax killed the engine. "Stay in the truck," he said. "Not a chance." They stepped inside. Dust hung in the air like fog. Rows of crates stretched into the shadows, each stamped with the Lily's Legacy logo. Ava pried one open bags of rice, canned beans, water filters. Relief flooded her. Then Jax froze. "Here," he said, pointing to a crate at the back. Different seal, no logo, unregistered. He pried it open with a crowbar. Inside firearms, wrapped in plastic, military grade. Ava stumbled back. "Oh my God." Jax's voice dropped to a whisper. "This isn't us." Headlights flared outside, tires on gravel. Jax slammed the lid shut. "We have to go." They barely made it to the truck before police cruisers swung into the lot, sirens off but lights spinning. "Hands where I can see them." Floodlights snapped on. Ava raised her hands, rain stinging her face. "Please, this is a mistake." But in the glare she could see the silhouettes of the officers. Weapons drawn, and one of them Keena's smiling. The precinct stank of coffee and wet carpet. Ava sat in an interview room under buzzing fluorescent light. Across from her, Detective Collins flipped through a file. "You were found at the scene," he said. "Crates of unregistered firearm. Your name's on the lease." "That's bad optics. I didn't know about the guns. They don't belong to us." "To you, maybe not. But your friends in leather, they're a charity," she snapped. He leaned back, unimpressed. "You're smart, Ms. Reyes. But this is organized crime. You want to keep your kid out of foster care. Help me connect the dots." The words hit like a slap. "You leave my daughter out of this? Then tell me what you know." "I already did. We use that warehouse for food distribution. Someone planted those crates." Collins closed the file. "If that's true, you'll have your chance to prove it. Until then, you're not leaving town." He stood and walked out. The lock clicked behind him. Bear posted bail by morning. When Ava stepped outside, he was waiting by the curb, face gray with exhaustion. "I'm sorry," he said before she could speak. "They used our own name to frame us. Someone got inside. Who? I don't know yet, but I'm gonna find out." "You can't go after them," she said. "That's what they want. One wrong move, and the press will turn this into a gang war." Bear met her eyes. "You think I care about headline?" "You should," Ava said quietly, "because if we lose the story, we lose everything." 2 days later, the story broke. Charity under fire. Weapons found in Lily's Legacy warehouse. News anchors repeated her name like a curse. Anonymous sources hinted at biker retaliation. The donations stopped overnight. Volunteers quit. The community center emptied until it was just Ava and the echo of what they'd built. Luna drew pictures on the floor beside her desk. When Ava's phone buzzed again, the child looked up. "Is it the police again?" Ava forced a smile. "No, baby. Just work." But it wasn't. It was an email. Anonymous sender. Subject: "You're being played." Attached, a single photo. Councilman Vance shaking hands with Scott Keen outside a campaign bus. Underneath, a caption: "Warehouse deal closed. Clean up soon." Her stomach turned cold. That night, she met Jax at a diner off the freeway, the same place where she'd first met Bear months ago. She slid the phone across the table. "This proves they're behind it." He studied the image. "Maybe. Or maybe it's bait. You expose it wrong, they spin it as doctored. Then we need real proof." Jax nodded slowly. "There's one person who might help Diaz. He runs our network logs. If that photo's real, metadata'll show who sent it and when." "Where is he?" "Out of state, but I can reach him tonight." He left to make the call. Ava watched rain trace lines down the window. She thought about Luna asleep at home, Mrs. Johnson keeping watch next door, and wondered how many more lives her kindness had tangled. When Jax returned, his face was tight. Diaz says the leak's internal. Someone's been spoofing our emails for months, routing through city servers, so the city framed us using our own system. Looks that way. They're building a case. Ava, we need to go public before they bury us. The next morning, she walked straight into the Channel 8 newsroom. Cameras rolled as she stood before the microphones. My name is Ava Reyes. I run Lily's Legacy. Yes, weapons were found in one of our warehouses, but they weren't ours. I believe city officials planted them to destroy a program that's helping people they'd rather forget. The reporters erupted. Questions overlapped. Do you have proof? Not yet, Ava said, voice steady. But I will. That night, the video hit 1 million views. Supporters rallied. Others called her delusional. Vance held a press conference of his own. Baseless accusations from a misguided woman manipulated by criminals. The line stung, but she'd expected it. 2 nights later, Bear called. I found something, he said. Come to the garage. Now, when Ava arrived, the lights were dim. Bear stood beside a laptop. A hard drive connected. On the screen, a video file labeled Vance, Call 517. He hit play. The audio crackled. Vance, she's too clean. If you can't find dirt, make some plenty, photograph it, leak it. Keen. What about the kid? Vance. She'll fold before it gets that far. Silence. Then Bear's quiet growl. They underestimated you. Ava's pulse pounded. Where did this come from? Diaz traced a deleted file on their campaign server. Took him all night. This is everything, she said. We can end them. Bear nodded. Careful how you drop it. Make it legal. Ava smiled faintly. Paper? Overheat. The next morning, she delivered the file to a journalist at the Chronicle, the only paper that had treated her fairly. Within hours, the story hit the front page. Audio leak exposes Councilman Vance's plot to frame charity. Social media exploded. Keene was suspended pending investigation. Vance denied everything, but the damage was done. That night, the same rain returned, softer this time, washing soot off the walls of the center. Bear came by with coffee. You realize you just made enemies. I already had them, Ava said. He smiled. Yeah, but now they're scared. A week later, the mayor's office announced a formal audit clearing Lily's legacy of all wrongdoing. Donations resume. Volunteers return. At the reopening, Ava stood before the crowd, Luna clutching her hand. I used to think kindness was fragile. She said that if you showed it too much, the world would break it. But I was wrong. Kindness, Ben. It survives fire and lies. It's the only thing that does. Applause rippled through the room. Raw and real. Bear leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes glistening. Jax murmured, "What now?" Ava smiled. "Now we build again." Later that night, as the center emptied, she walked to her office. On her desk sat an envelope. No return address. Inside, a photo of her and Luna outside their apartment, taken from across the street. On the back, a handwritten line. This isn't over. Ava stared at it for a long time, heartbeat steady. Then she tore the photo in half, dropped it into the trash, and switched off the light. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far off. Less like a warning now, more like applause. The night air was colder than it should have been for June. Ava Reyes walked through the near-empty center, her steps echoing against the polished floor. The new security cameras hummed quietly overhead. Bear's idea after the last threat. The place looked perfect now. Fresh paint, new glass, no smoke scars. But peace. She'd learned often felt like the pause before a storm. She stopped at the wall of photos, families they'd helped. Mrs. Patterson with her heart medicine. Marcus, now working steady. Kids laughing in the after-school program. Hope framed in still images. Then her phone vibrated. A single message. Unknown number. You still think you won? Check your accounts. By morning, the fire had spread digitally this time. Bank notifications stacked like dominoes. Unauthorized transactions. Wire transfers she hadn't made. One to a shell company overseas. Another flagged by the IRS. Ava's hands trembled as she stared at the numbers. Tens of thousands. Gone. Jax burst through her office door moments later. I saw the alerts. Don't say anything to the staff yet. Who could have done this? He pointed at her computer. Not who, how. They breached the system. Somebody spoofed your credentials again. Can we trace it? Maybe, Jack said, but it's not just money. Look. He opened the charity's social page. The top post, Luna's photo at the block party, had been edited, caption changed to read, "Bought her smile with dirty money." End of quote. Ava's throat closed. They're using my daughter now. Jax nodded grimly. This isn't vandalism anymore. It's war. That afternoon, the donors started calling. Are you under investigation again? Should we freeze the pledge? We can't be associated with controversy. Ava answered every call, her voice steady, even as her hands shook beneath the desk. No, ma'am. It's a cyber attack. The FBI's been notified. It wasn't true yet, but it had to be soon. When the last caller hung up, she dropped her head into her hand. She wanted to scream, but exhaustion had hollowed her out too much to find the sound. Bear found her like that. He set a coffee on her desk, his rough hand resting on the back of her chair. You remember what you said the day you hired me, she murmured. I said you had fight. He replied, I said kindness bends. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it just breaks Keeter. Bear crouched until their eyes met. No, it bends until it cuts through steel. He placed a folder in front of her. I called in a favor. Cybercrimes consultant friend of Diaz. Her name's Nia Tran. She's already tracing the breach. Nia arrived that evening. A compact woman in her 30s with purple hair and a laptop covered in stickers. She spoke fast. Fingers faster. Okay, she said, typing. Whoever did this knew your system inside out. Admin level access. But they made a mistake. They left a ghost ping. A what? Ava asked. Metadata residue. Digital fingerprint. The IP points to a private contractor that's... Wait. Nia's brow furrowed. That can't be right. What is it? City government firewall. Someone from inside used the council's network. Ava's pulse thudded. Vance, or one of his friends, Nia said. Give me 24 hours. I'll have proof. It took 12. By dawn, Nia slid a printed report across the desk. Lines of code. Timestamps. Server logs, all leading back to one name. Keen. He'd rerouted foundation funds through a dummy vendor, using Ava's credentials cloned from the last investigation. A perfect digital frame-up. He's going down, Jack said. Not yet. Ava replied, not until we have the story right. Paper overheat. Nia grinned. You really love that line. Ava looked out the window at the awakening street. Because it's the only way we survive. They moved carefully. Bear arranged a meeting with a federal contact agent, Laura Finch, a quiet woman with the kind of composure that made people confess just to fill silence. She listened to Nia's evidence, flipping through the files with surgical calm. You're certain of these logs? 100%. Nia said. I can replicate the path live. Finch nodded. Then we'll coordinate with internal affairs. But you can't leak this yet. The moment they know, they'll purge servers and vanish the money. How long do you need? Ava asked. 48 hours. Ava agreed. but 2 days felt like a lifetime. The threats started again that night, handwritten letters this time, slipped under her door. You should have walked away. We warned you once. By morning, someone had keyed her car and painted Lear across the side. Mrs. Johnson came over with a bucket of soapy water. Let me, she said. Ava tried to protest, but the older woman shook her head. You saved this block, child. Now we clean yours. They scrubbed together in silence until the last of the paint bled away. When they finished, Mrs. Johnson said quietly, people forget kindness when they're scared. Remind them. Ava hugged her. For the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. On the second night, just after midnight, Naya burst into the center, laptop under her arm. They know, she said. Keen's wiping the logs right now. Ava's blood ran cold. Can you stop it? Not from here. We need the source terminal. It's in City Hall. Then we go, Ava said. Jax grabbed his keys. You're not going without backup. They drove through the sleeping city, tires hissing on wet pavement. Inside City Hall, the lights on the 4th floor burned like interrogation lamps. They slipped through the side door. Nia's badge had unlocked old favor from a tech contract and hurried down the corridor. Nia booted a terminal, fingers flying. I'm in... almost. Footsteps echoed. Keen appeared at the end of the hall. Tee loose, gun at his hip. You really don't know when to quit. Ava stepped forward, heart hammering. You stole money meant for medicine. For kids. You framed us twice. He smirked. No, I rebalanced the narrative. You wanted to be a hero. I made sure the world saw the truth. You mean your truth? She shot back. Keen drew his weapon. Turn off that laptop. Nia froze. Jax shifted. Ready. Do it. Keena barked. Ava raised her hands slowly. You don't have to do this. You think this is about you? Keena sneered. This city needs control, not pity projects run by sentimental nobodies. That's what you call compassion sentimental. It's weakness. Ava met his eyes. Calm now. Then maybe weakness is exactly what wins. A voice cut through the hallway. Put the gun down. Sergeant. Agent Finch stepped from the shadows. Badge up, flanked by 2 federal officers. You're under arrest for embezzlement, obstruction, and assault with intent. Keena hesitated, then lowered the gun. His smirk faded into something hollow. You'll never fix this city, he muttered as they cuffed him. Ava's reply was quiet. Maybe not, but I'll keep trying. The story broke the next morning. Headlines blared. Corrupt officer arrested in Lily's legacy frame-up. Public sentiment flipped overnight. Donations doubled again. Councilman Vance resigned under pressure, citing health reason. Ava watched the news from the center's break room. Luna curled beside her, half asleep against her shoulder. Bear entered, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You did it. We did it. She corrected. He smiled. Feels strange, doesn't it? Winning. She thought of Keen's last words. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like breathing again. That weekend, they reopened the center officially. Reporters came, neighbors came, even a few officers, new faces, wary but curious. On stage, Ava spoke with her usual quiet strength. This place was built from $8 and a choice. Every day since has been a fight to prove that kindness isn't weakness. It's work. Hard, messy, unglamorous work, but it's the only thing that changes anything. The crowd rose in applause. At the edge of the stage, Jax leaned against a column, clapping. His smile, small but real. Nia filmed from the aisle, mouthing viral for sure. Bear watched from the back, arms crossed, eyes glinting with pride. That night, when the center emptied, Ava lingered in the hall alone. The lights hummed softly, steady this time. She walked to the window. The rain had stopped. Across the street, the reflection of the new mural shimmered on the wet asphalt. Wings over a city skyline. words painted beneath it. Kindness wins the long game. Ava smiled. Then her phone buzzed again. A single text. No number. Just words. See you at the next vote. She exhaled slowly, pocketed the phone, and turned off the lights. Some wars end in applause. Others just pause. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't feel hollow. It felt earned. Morning light spilled through the new windows of the Reyes House Community Center, glinting off the polished floors and catching the mural that stretched across the far wall. Kindness wins the long game. For the first time in months, everything looked steady, too steady. Ava Reyes stood at the reception desk, reviewing schedules. New volunteers were due in at 9, food delivery at 11, interview with the Chronicle at 2, the normal rhythm of rebuilding. But in the corner of her desk sat a manila envelope with no return address. She stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Inside, a single USB drive and a note written in block letters. You missed one. By noon, the center buzzed again with life. Children in the after-school program colored at tables. The air smelled of pancakes from the kitchen, the laughter of volunteers cutting through the hum of work. But Ava couldn't shake the weight of that note. When Nia Tran arrived, she pulled her into her office immediately. Someone dropped this off. Nia eyed the drive. You didn't plug it in. Right. Not yet. Good. We'll sandbox it. Within minutes, Nia's laptop hummed, fans whirring as lines of code scrolled across the screen. Then a video window opened grainy, time-stamped 3 weeks earlier. The feed showed a different warehouse, this one on the outskirts of town. 2 men unloading unmarked crates into a truck. One of them was Vance. The other, Ava froze, was a face she knew. Marcus, the veteran they'd helped. No, Ava whispered. That can't be right. Nia slowed the footage. Marcus lifted one crate and handed it off. Then he pulled out a phone, snapped a photo, and texted something. Maybe he's reporting it, Nia said. Or part of it. Ava murmured. Either way, someone wants us to see this. She found Marcus that evening at the community workshop. He was repairing a donated wheelchair, sleeves rolled, grease on his hands. He looked up when she entered, smiling. Hey, boss lady. What's up? Ava studied his steady eyes, calm tone, the same quiet gentleness she'd seen when he'd handed her that envelope of cash months ago. Someone sent me a video, she said softly. It shows you at a warehouse with Councilman Vance. His smile died. You saw that. Tell me it's not what it looks like. He wiped his hands on a rag, exhaled slowly. It's complicated. Try me. I was in debt. Ava. After everything that happened after Keene, I still had the VA breathing down my neck. My benefits got delayed again. Vance's people offered me cash to move some boxes. I didn't ask questions until I saw what was inside. What was inside? Files, hard drives, paperwork, looked like city contracts. When I realized it wasn't legit, I took that video and turned it over to an attorney friend. But the next day he vanished. Ava's pulse quickened. Vanished. Packed up. Closed office. Gone. That's when I stopped talking. Why send the footage to me now? Marcus looked her straight in the eye. Because whoever sent you that note isn't done. And I think Vance still has people on the inside. That night, Ava met Jax and Bear in the back room of the center. The air smelled faintly of oil and rain. She laid the printed stills from the video on the table. We thought the corruption ended with Keene. We were wrong. Bear leaned over the photos. If Vance's people are still moving city files, it's cleanup, covering tracks before the audit hits. Jax nodded. They'll burn anything that ties back to the fraud case. Ava stared at the images. Then we stopped them before they erased the truth again. Paper or fire? Jax asked. Ava's voice was calm. Both. They started with the address from the footage. An abandoned depot near the highway. Nia traced the lease to a dummy company. Same pattern as before. When Ava and Jax arrived that night, the air buzzed with tension. The building loomed ahead, half collapsed, light leaking from cracks in the tin walls. Inside, two men loaded boxes into a van. One Ava recognized Keen's former partner, Officer Rourke, now off the force, but clearly not retired from business. Ava whispered, "We need proof." Jax pulled out his phone, recording through the cracked door. "We get 10 seconds and we go," but as they turned to leave, a metal latch snapped behind them. Rourke's voice, "Well, look who crawled back." Ava froze. The men stepped out from behind crates, flashlights cutting through the dark. "You've got guts showing up here after ruining good men's careers," Rourke sneered. "You ruined your own." Ava said, "We just told the truth." Rourke chuckled. "Truth's a flexible thing." He raised a pistol. "And so is survival." Ava's heartbeat thundered. But before he could step closer, headlights flared at the far end of the warehouse motorcycles, engines roaring like thunder. Bear's voice boomed from the entrance. "Step away from her." Rourke turned just as the iron seraphs poured in, floodlights cutting the dark. The standoff froze, the echo of engines filling the silence. "Put the gun down," Bear said. Rourke hesitated, then laughed. "You think you can scare me?" "No," Bear said, "but she can." Ava stepped forward, phone raised, its flashlight gleaming off the pistol's barrel. "Smile," she said. "You're live streaming to every journalist who doubted me." Rourke's face drained of color. Within minutes, the sound of sirens closed in. By dawn, police swarmed the site. Evidence filled a dozen boxes, contracts, flash drives, and ledgers linking Rourke and Vance to the laundering scheme that predated Keen's fall. As the officers loaded everything into van, Agent Finch approached Ava. "You just buried their whole network," she said. Ava's hands shook slightly. "We keep digging until there's nothing left to bury." Finch smiled faintly. "You're not law enforcement, but you'd make a terrifying one." "I don't want their job," Ava replied. "I just want my city back." That evening, exhaustion finally hit. The community center was quiet again, the glow from the murals soft against the walls. Luna slept in the corner office, curled under a blanket. Ava sat at her desk, staring at the live news feed. Former Councilman Derek Vance faces federal indictment. Her phone rang. It was Marcus. "You good?" he asked. "I will be." He hesitated. "I didn't mean for any of this. I never wanted to bring trouble to your door." "You didn't," she said softly. "You brought light. Guess that makes us even." When they hung up, she closed her eyes, letting the quiet sink in. Not peace, exactly, but a fragile, earned kind of silence. 2 days later, during a morning staff meeting, Bear stepped up with an envelope in his hand. "We got this from the mayor's office," he said, voice heavy. Inside was an official letter recognition for community contribution and a grant proposal. They want to replicate the Reyes House model across 5 more neighborhoods. Bear said, "Under your leadership." The room erupted in applause. Ava smiled, but the moment came with a strange ache. Expansion meant bureaucracy, publicity, and more eyes on her family. Still, she stood. "We'll do it," she said, "but not as a franchise, as a movement." That night, she walked the empty hall alone. Construction noise from the street echoed faintly through the windows. She paused under the mural, tracing the edge of a painted wing with her fingertips. From somewhere outside came the faint rumble of motorcycles, familiar, steady, protective. She smiled. Then, is a sound. Soft. Wrong. A camera shudder. She turned. A man stood at the doorway, face hidden by a hood, phone raised. When she called out, he bolted. Ava chased him through the alley until he vanished into traffic. Her phone buzzed seconds later. A new text. We rebuild too. She stood under the flickering street light, chest rising and falling, the city humming around her. For every kindness, a counterforce. For every reform, a reaction. That was the balance. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She looked up at the skyline, lights stretching like a heartbeat through the fog, and whispered, "Then we'll keep rebuilding." Later, as the rain began again, she returned inside and picked up her journal, the same one she'd used when she had nothing but $8 and a choice. She wrote, "Luna is safe. The truth survived another fire. Tomorrow, we build again." Then she closed the book, locked the door, and let the city's heartbeat fade into hers. Because she knew now what the quiet really was. Not peace, not safety, but the sound of resilience waiting for its next storm. The hum of the city had changed. It wasn't the chaos of scandal anymore, but the restless vibration of something new being built too fast, maybe too clean. Ava Reyes stood on the balcony of the newly opened East Side Community Wing, one of 5 centers modeled after the Reyes house. Below her, volunteers moved like clockwork. Boxes, checklists, sign-ins, efficiency everywhere. And yet, something felt off. She caught it in the faces, smiles too tight, eyes darting toward the cameras stationed around the site. City contractors in blue windbreakers lingered longer than they should. The expansion had brought oversight, but it also brought surveillance. Jax joined her on the balcony, coffee in hand. "You should see what they're calling us now," he said, scrolling his phone, "the kindness machine. Like we're an algorithm." Ava smiled faintly. "Kindness doesn't scale well. It's supposed to be slow." "Tell that to the mayor," Jack said. "She wants a ribbon cutting every week." "I don't trust things that grow too fast," Ava murmured. He glanced at her, frowning. "You think someone's cashing in?" "I think someone always is." 2 days later, Nia stormed into Ava's office, laptop under her arm, her usual calm stripped away. "We've got a problem," she said. Ava closed her folder. "What kind?" "The new grant portal, CityLink, has an admin override that wasn't supposed to exist. It's diverting small payments from the expansion sites, not much individually, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. But across 5 centers, we're talking thousands disappearing every week. Who controls CityLink?" "Technically, the mayor's tech division," Nia said, "but the code signature doesn't match any of their developers. Someone piggybacked the rollout." Ava felt her chest tight. "They used our own system again." Jax appeared in the doorway. "Want the bad news or the worse one?" "Give me both." "Press just got wind of the missing funds. They're spinning it as internal fraud volunteers stealing donations." Ava stood. "Then we find the truth before the city buries us in it." The first thing she did was call Bear. He'd been traveling between centers, overseeing operations. His voice came through rough but steady. "I told you they'd try again," he said. "Power doesn't it just changes coats. They're not just targeting us anymore." Ava replied. "They're using our name to launder through the new branches. Then we burn the fake ones and keep the real." "I can't burn anything without proof," she said. "Find me the paper trail." "Already working on it," Bear said. "But be careful. Whoever's behind this has reach. I've seen unmarked SUVs near the South Side Center at night. Government plates. Worse, none at all." The next morning, Ava visited the South Side branch herself. It was supposed to be a food distribution hub, but when she arrived, she found half the storeroom locked and unlit. A young volunteer named Carla shifted nervously at her arrival. "Ms. Reyes, I didn't know you were coming. I like surprises," Ava said gently. "What's behind the locked door?" Carla hesitated. "Supplies," she said. Too quickly. Ava held out her hand. Keys. Carla bit her lip, then surrendered them. Inside, Ava flipped on the light. Not food, not clothes, stacks of new laptops, all boxed, tagged with CityLink stickers and invoices, showing triple billing to different grant codes. She exhaled slowly. Someone's padding inventory and pocketing the difference. Carla's voice cracked. I didn't know, I swear. The city rep told us to store them until inspection. What city rep? Name was Langford. Said he was from the mayor's office. Ava snapped a photo of the invoice. Langford doesn't exist in the registry, she murmured, which means we've got a ghost in the system. That night, she, Nia, and Jax gathered in the old center's conference room, the original Rhea's house, now their war room again. Nia spread her laptop's glow across the table. Whoever Langford is, he's routing funds through a shell non-profit civic uplift initiative. It's new, filed under the city's Community Renewal Act. Guess whose signature authorized it? Jax's jaw clenched. The mayor. Avas pulses steadied. No, someone forged her signature, or she's being played. Nia shook her head. Maybe. But look, Civic Uplift's board members include a familiar name. She turned the screen toward them. Councilman Derek Vance. Jax swore under his breath. He's in federal custody. Was Nia corrected. Released last month under supervision pending appeal. Guess house arrest doesn't stop him from stealing again. Ava leaned back, staring at the wall. He's still pulling strings from the inside, and he's using kindness as camouflage. They needed proof, real, documented proof. So Ava did something she hadn't done in months. She went undercover again. She attended a civic uplift networking gala downtown, dressed in borrowed evening wear from a thrift shop. The ballroom shimmered with donors and officials congratulating each other under chandeliers. Champagne in hunt. Vance wasn't there, but his proxies were men and women with practiced smiles and government badges. She recognized one of them, Langford. He was laughing near the bar, bragging about streamlining community metrics. Ava drifted closer, phone recording in her clutch. CityLink was the smartest thing we ever did. Langford was saying, public thinks they're donating to food drives. In reality, half of it flows straight through consultancy invoices. No oversight. New questions. Isn't Reyes on to you? Someone asked. Langford chuckled. She's a face, not a player. The system's bigger than her now. Ava's jaw tightened. Then a hand touched her shoulder. Ms. Reyes, a voice said smoothly. She turned and found herself staring at the mayor. Didn't expect to see you here, the mayor said, her tone pleasant but sharp. I was invited, Ava said. By whom? Ava smiled faintly. The people whose work I fund. The mayor studied her for a moment. You've done remarkable thing, Ava. But you're not the only one trying to help this city. Sometimes partnerships require compromise. Compromise isn't theft, Ava said. The mayor's eyes cooled. Careful with your words. Perception is everything in politics. So is truth. A long silence. Then the mayor's smile returned, brittle and precise. Enjoy the evening. As she walked away, Ava's phone vibrated. A new message from an unknown number. Leave now. She slipped out the back exit, just as the fire alarm went off. Inside, shouts rose, sprinklers hissed, and chaos rippled through the crowd. Someone had triggered an evacuation. Ava turned into the alley only to see two men in suits blocking the other end. Jax's motorcycle screeched around the corner. Get on. They tore through downtown traffic as sirens wailed behind them. At the safe house, Nia met them with wide eyes. The gala fire was no accident. Someone torched the servers. They wanted to wipe the CityLink data. Ava pulled the phone from her bag. Not all of it. I got Langford on tape. That's good, Nia said. But we'll need his digital footprint to make it stick. Then we find him before they do. They found Langford 2 nights later at a downtown hotel, preparing to flee. Bear and Jax boxed in his car at the parking deck, while Ava confronted him. He tried to bluff, tried to spin it as consulting fees, but the fear cracked his voice. "You don't understand," he said. "Vance has people everywhere. If I talk, I'm dead." Ava's tone softened. "If you don't, this city stays poisoned. You can help clean it or go down with it." Langford's hands shook. "There's a backup server underground archive under City Hall. Codename Mirror Vault. That's where everything is. Then that's where we go," Ava said. The Mirror Vault wasn't on any map, but Bear's old connections led them to a sub-basement entry, used decades ago for civil defense. The air inside was damp, metallic. Rows of humming racks filled the space, light blinking like stars. "This is it," Naya whispered. Ava stepped closer to the nearest console. The hum vibrating through her bones. "Pull it all." Nia plugged in her drive, typing fast. "Give me 60 seconds. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Red lights strobed. "Motion sensors," Jax shouted. Security floodlights flared to life. A recorded voice blared through speakers. "Unauthorized access detected. Lockdown initiated." Metal shutters began sliding over exits. 30 seconds, Nia yelled. Bear ripped a pipe from the wall, jamming it under the closing gate. Sparks flew. "Got it," Nia shouted, yanking the drive free. All files copied. They dove through the gap as the shutter slammed down behind them. Outside, Ava collapsed against the wall, breath ragged. In her hand, the small drive glowed faintly blue. The whole city, every theft, every bribe fit inside that inch of metal. "Let's finish this," she said. By dawn, the Chronicle published again, Mirror Vault exposed. Evidence of citywide embezzlement scheme. Names, contracts, shell accounts, everything laid bare. The mayor resigned within a week. Vance's bail was revoked, but Ava stayed out of the spotlight. When reporters called, she issued one statement. "Kindness without accountability becomes vanity. We owe this city more than slogans." On a Sunday morning, Ava stood before the mural at the original Reyes house again. Kids played outside, the sound of laughter filtering through open windows. Nia joined her. "You realize you just dismantled half of downtown's power structure." Ava smiled softly. "We just told the truth. The city will decide what to do with it." Bear appeared in the doorway. "They're naming the Audit Act after you. Reyes Amendment." Ava shook her head. "Name it after Lily. She's the reason any of this exists." Silence. Then Jax grinned. "That's the first order we can all agree on." As dusk fell, Ava locked up the center, the mural glowing gold in the fading light. She paused at the door, breathing in the quiet. The good kind this time. The kind she'd fought for. Her phone buzzed once more. A text from an unknown number. "You changed the game, now protect it." Ava smiled, slipped the phone into her pocket, and walked out into the streetlights. Because the fight wasn't over, it never was. But the city, for the first time, felt like it might just be worth fighting for. The morning came with the smell of rain and distant sirens, a low hum threading through the waking city. Ava Reyes stood on the rooftop of the newly completed Lilly Center, the sixth of their community hubs, this one built from the ashes of an old textile mill on the west side. From here, she could see every corner of what used to be her fight. Now it was a network. Food programs, legal clinics, job cooperatives, a movement. But peace, she'd learned, was never permanent, only borrowed. Her phone buzzed against the railing. An email. Subject line. Audit, notice, Federal Review. Zender, Office of Civic Integrity. She opened it. "Your organization is under review for misuse of federal relief fund." Please provide documentation of all disbursements within 72 hours. His stomach dropped. Not again. Inside, Jax and Nia were already in the main conference room. The walls were covered in maps, flowcharts, and a whiteboard filled with budgets. Nia looked up from her laptop. You saw it? Yeah. This isn't the city this time, Jax said. This is D.C. Ava took a slow breath. Who filed the complaint? Nia clicked a few keys. Anonymous whistleblower. But the metadata on the submission file traces back to a congressional network. So someone in Washington wants us off the board, Jax said, or wants leverage. Ava murmured. Bear walked in, rain dripping off his leather jacket. You're not gonna like this. Word on the street says an energy developer, Pinnacle Renewables, wants to buy the old East Docks for a private logistics hub. That land sits right under the new Lilly Center district. Ava met his eyes. They want the property cleared, or the non-profit running it discredited. That night, Ava combed through the financial records herself, every grant, every ledger, every line item. It was all clean, but the timing was too precise to be random. She thought back to the mirror vault, the fire, the messages. Each time she'd exposed corruption, someone higher up had emerged from the shadows. Maybe this was the top of the chain. Herr Disk, Lampfliegel. She looked up. On her window, reflected faintly, was a red laser dot, small, circular. Shaking slightly, she dove to the floor just as the glass shattered. By dawn, police surrounded the building. The bullet had punched through her office window, lodging in the far wall. The officers called it a warning shot. Ava knew better. Jax paced behind her. We're pulling you and Luna out of the city tonight. No, Ava said, her voice low but steady. If I run now, they win. I'll move Luna to safety. But I stay. Bear stepped forward. You can't fight shadows with speeches. I'm not giving speeches, Ava said. I'm documenting everything. If they want transparency, I'll drown them in it. She called a press conference that afternoon. Reporters crowded into the Lilly Center auditorium. Ava stood before them, her arms still bandaged from flying glass. We've been accused again, she said calmly. But this time, we're not defending ourselves in silence. Every receipt, every file, every transaction will be public by midnight. Because the only people who fear sunlight are those who live in the dark. When she finished, the room buzzed with questions. But her expression didn't falter. She'd learned to weaponize calm. That evening, Nia worked with her team to build a live transparency portal. Donations, spending, invoices, everything uploaded in real time. The site crashed twice under traffic before stabilizing. You just went nuclear, Jax muttered. Good, Ava said. Let's see who sweats first. Minutes later, her phone lit up with an unknown number. She answered, a male voice, smooth, too confident. Ms. Reyes, this is Elliot Dane, legal counsel for Pinnacle Renewables. We'd like to meet privately. About what? About opportunity, and about survival. She hesitated. I don't negotiate with people who shoot at me. A small laugh. Then let's talk about people who can stop that from happening again. The line clicked dead. She met him the next morning at a downtown cafe, in a corner booth shielded from the street. A looked polished gray suit, pale smile, eyes that didn't blink enough. You've built something impressive, Dane said, but you've also built it on very valuable ground. You mean human ground? Ava replied. I mean waterfront property. The government wants growth. Investors want security. Your centers sit on land worth tens of millions, so you fabricate a federal review to push us out. Let's call it alignment of interests. He slid a folder across the table. Sell the properties to Pinnacle. We'll fold your foundation into a national philanthropic arms salary. Visibility. No more danger. Everyone wins. Ava didn't touch the folder. Everyone except the people we serve. Dane smiled faintly. They'll adjust. Cities always do. Ava leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper. You're underestimating what we've built. This isn't charity. It's community infrastructure. If you touch it, people will notice. That's the beauty of it, Dane said, standing. By the time they do, it'll already be gone. That night, Ava sat in her office, the folder unopened on her desk. Outside, thunder rolled across the city like a slow warning. Bear knocked once before entering. You okay? She gestured at the folder. They're offering to buy my silence. What are you gonna do? She looked out at the rain. Make sure they regret asking. By morning, Nia had cracked Pinnacle's internal emails. Proof the company had funded the anonymous complaint that triggered the federal audit. Even more damning, they'd partnered with a congressional aide tied to Vance's old network. This is the same tree, Nia said, different branch. Then we cut it down. Ava replied. Jax grinned. You mean legally, right? Mostly. They drafted a statement paired with the documents and prepared a live stream from the original Reyes house that evening. When Ava stepped up to the camera, the rain had stopped, but the streets still gleamed under the lights. She began softly, voice steady, eyes level with the lens. They told me to sell what we built. They told me kindness was naive. They were wrong. It's the only honest currency left. She held up the folder, opened it, and revealed the contracts inside their signatures. The payoffs, the fraud. I'm not here to destroy. I'm here to expose. And if that means losing everything, so be it. The truth deserves daylight. The broadcast spread faster than any story before. Within hours, federal investigators confirmed the evidence. Pinnacle's stock crashed overnight. But victory, Ava knew, always came with a cost. At dawn, Bear drove her to the safe house outside the city where Luna had been staying. The child ran out barefoot into the yard, hair wild, laughter sharp against the morning air. Ava knelt and hugged her tight. You okay, baby? Mrs. Johnson says the storm's over, Luna said. Ava smiled faintly. For now, Bear watched from the porch. You think it's done? No, Ava said, but I think we bought the city time to breathe. Later that week, as the dust settled, the Department of Justice announced the creation of a public integrity task force headed by Agent Laura Finch, built on evidence gathered from Lily's legacy. The news anchors called it the Reyes precedent. Ava didn't watch the coverage. She spent that evening at the Westside Center, cleaning tables after the food drive. The smell of soap and bread filled the air. Jax joined her quietly. They're talking about putting you on the advisory board for national reform. I'm not a politician, she said. No, he replied. You're worse. You're honest. She laughed softly, then looked out the window at the skyline. Maybe that's what scares them most. That night, she returned to the rooftop of the Lilly Center, the same place she'd stood weeks ago. The city stretched out below, humming, wounded, alive. She took out her phone and typed a note in her journal app. We're never finished. Every clean ledger hides a story. Every reform breeds new cracks. But maybe that's how the light gets in. A gust of wind lifted the edge of her jacket. Somewhere in the distance, a motorcycle engine started, a single, familiar growl fading into the night. Ava smiled, whispered to the wind, "Keep watch," and turned toward the stairs, because tomorrow would bring new storms, and she was ready. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the city was already awake. Sirens murmured far off, and the hum of buses echoed down the narrow streets like the heartbeat of a giant coming back to life. From the rooftop of the Lilly Center, Ava Reyes could see the lights flickering on one building at a time, one window at a time, like tiny acts of defiance against the dark. It was the 1-year anniversary of the Reyes Amendment, and with it came a promise she wasn't sure the city could keep. Downstairs, the main hall of the center had been transformed overnight. Rows of folding chairs faced a temporary stage, banners hung from the ceiling. 1 year of accountability. 1 year of Lily's legacy. Volunteers bustled about, setting up coffee, microphones, cameras. The air smelled of paint and pastries. Bear stood by the door, wearing his only suit, creased but clean. "You sure about this, kid?" he asked. "About speaking," Ava replied. "About letting them celebrate something that's still bleeding." Ava gave a tired smile. "We need to show people it's worth it to keep fighting, even when it hurts." Bear grunted. "That's your gift. You make struggle sound holy." "Not holy," Ava said. "Necessary." An hour later, the first wave of guests arrived. City workers, families, students, even a few reporters who had once called her delusional. Agent Laura Finch was there too, her posture as sharp as ever, her badge gleaming under the lights. "Congratulations," Finch said quietly as they shook hands. "What you built here, it changed federal policy." Ava nodded. "And what you built keeps it safe." Finch's lips curved in the smallest smile. For now, that phrase "for now" hung in the air like an echo Ava couldn't escape. In the back corner, Naya and Jax were setting up the live stream. Luna sat beside them, her hair in braids, coloring on a clipboard. She'd grown taller, steadier, her laughter lighter. "Ava knelt beside her. You nervous, baby?" Luna looked up. "You are." Ava laughed softly. "You can tell. I can always tell." Luna's voice dropped. "You only breathe like that when you think something bad might happen." Ava brushed a hand over her daughter's hair. "Nothing bad. Just a big day." But she didn't tell her about the anonymous message that had arrived that morning, 2 words typed in black on white. "Last chance." By noon, every chair was full. The cameras rolled. Ava stepped onto the stage, her notes trembling slightly in her hand. Behind her, the mural of wings filled the wall, paint chipped, colors softened by a year of storms. But still standing, she looked out at the crowd, exhaled, and began. "1 year ago, this was rubble," she said. "A broken street, a broken trust, a city on the edge of giving up. And now look around you. Look what survived." Applause. "But survival isn't the finish line," she continued. "It's just the proof we can keep going." Her words carried, low and steady, each one finding a place to land. "I've learned that kindness without systems fails, and systems without kindness rot. So we keep both alive. Together." More applause. Then stillness. Ava paused. She could feel something tightening in her chest, the way it always did before trouble. Her eyes caught a shadow near the back exit, someone standing too still, too intent. A low crack echoed. A light bulb above the stage shattered. Screams rose instantly. Security rushed forward. Bear tackled Ava to the ground, shielding her as shards of glass rained down. Another crack, a second bullet, embedded in the mural's center. Right between the painted wings, chows erupted. People ducked, ran. Finch drew her sidearm, scanning the upper rafters. Then silence. The shooter was gone. Hours later, the center was taped off. Yellow lines cutting through the aftermath like scars. Reporters shouted questions. Was it political? Was it revenge? Was it random? Ava said nothing. She sat on the curb outside, wrapped in a blanket, her hands trembling despite the warm afternoon. Finch crouched beside her. He fired twice and vanished. "We're pulling security footage now. You need to lie low." "I'm not hiding," Ava whispered. "This isn't about hiding," Finch said. "It's about surviving to finish what you started." Ava looked up, eyes sharp. "It's already finished. They just don't know it yet." That night, the footage came in. The shooter hadn't aimed at her. He'd aimed above her at the mural, at the wings, a message, not a murder. Bear found her in the darkened hall, staring at the bullet hole. Guess they missed on purpose. He said, no. Ava murmured. They hit exactly what they wanted. She traced the shattered paint with her fingertips. They're trying to break the symbol, then repaint it. Bear said. Ava turned, eyes glistening. Maybe it's better this way. Broken things tell the truth more honestly. 2 days later, the federal task force arrested 3 executives from Pinnacle Renewables. The connection to the shooting was still under investigation, but everyone knew. Public outrage followed. Then donations. Then speeches. The machine turned again. Ava watched it all unfold like someone watching waves from a distance. Beautiful, dangerous, inevitable. Jax found her at her desk, writing letters. What are you doing? He asked. Resigning, she said simply. He blinked. You're serious. I built this to stand on its own. If I stay, it becomes about me again. It can't. Jax shook his head. You think stepping away protects it. I think stepping away tests it. Her resignation went public at dawn. Headlines blazed. Ava Reyes steps down from Lily's legacy. Social media mourned, argued, dissected. By evening, the center was full of reporters again. Ava faced them one last time. This isn't an ending, she said. It's a handoff. The work doesn't need my name, it needs your hands. If you want to honor what we built, help someone. No one's watching. That's where real change begins. She left the podium to quiet applause. Finch met her at the door. Where will you go? Finch asked. Wherever the next crack shows, Ava replied. Weeks passed. The city settled into its new rhythm, less fearful, more self-reliant. The mural remained, bullet hole and all, a permanent scar in paint. Luna started 2nd grade. Bear opened a small repair shop near the docks. Jax stayed on as program director. Nia built the tech platform into a national network, and Ava, she disappeared. No press, no speeches, only rumors. Some said she'd gone abroad to help rebuild after floods. Others swore they'd seen her in D.C., advising the task force off the record. But Mrs. Johnson knew better. She saw the letters that arrived every month unsigned, but written in Ava's tight, careful hand. Each one contained a single story. A veteran rehoused, a school reopened, a family forgiven. Each one ended the same way. Kindness wins slow, but it wins. 1 year later, a new mural appeared overnight across from City Hall. It showed a woman standing beneath storm clouds, one hand raised toward a fractured sun. Beneath it, no signature. Just 3 words in black paint. Keep the light. Ava watched from across the street. Hood pulled up, coffee cooling in her hand. Pedestrians paused to photograph it, some smiling, some crying, all silent for a moment before moving on. Luna tugged her sleeve. Did you paint it, Mommy? Ava smiled faintly. No, baby. Someone else did. Then why are you smiling? Because they didn't need me to. She took her daughter's hand, and together they walked into the morning crowd. Their reflections briefly, merging with the mural's light, 2 figures against a city, still learning how to heal. As they disappeared around the corner, a faint shimmer of gold broke through the cloud. The first sunlight of the day spilled across the mural's surface, catching the paint, the cracks, and the bullet holes, turning every flaw into a gleam. And for a long, quiet moment, the city looked whole. In the end, Ava's story reminds us that real strength doesn't come from power. It comes from persistence. Kindness, when lived with boundaries and courage, isn't weakness. It's a quiet revolution. The world often rewards noise, aggression, and control. But true change is born in the choices no one sees, like showing up for someone who can't repay you, or speaking up when silence would be safer. Every act of decency, no matter how small, chips away at the walls built by fear and prejudice. For those who felt invisible, overlooked, or underestimated, Avaz's journey says, you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. You just have to be present. As the saying goes, gold fears no fire. The tests you survive don't tarnish your worth. They reveal it. When you choose compassion in a cynical world, you become proof that goodness still has a pulse. So, as you close this chapter, ask yourself, where in your life can you bring a little more courage, a little more kindness, even when it costs you something? Maybe that's the true legacy we leave behind, not grand victories, but the everyday decisions that say, I will not harden. If this story spoke to you, share your thoughts below. Have you ever faced a moment when helping someone felt risky but right? Tell me your story in the comments. Hit like to help more people find this message. And subscribe for more powerful stories that explore justice, empathy, and the quiet strength it takes to stay human. And wherever you are tonight, may you find calm after the storm, a little light in your corner of the world, steady and real.